Whispers in the void. Nadia Reeves pressed her back against the frozen titanium wall, each shallow breath condensing in clouds before her face. The temperature control systems had failed hours ago, and the Taraxis moon's natural climate was rapidly seeping into what remained of Research Outpost 17. Outside, the perpetual blizzard howled through the mangled structure, a haunting dirge for the 23 crew members who no longer needed to fear the cold. Blood trickled from the gash in her side where a support beam had impaled her during the attack. She'd managed to extract herself and apply a temporary seal, but internal bleeding had already begun. The medical bay was on the other side of the station, now just a gaping hole exposing the silver-white landscape beyond. Mayday, Mayday. This is Communications Specialist Nadia Reeves, Earth Alliance Outpost 17. Requesting immediate evacuation, she rasped into her wrist communicator for what must have been the 30th time. Nothing but static answered her. The quantum relay had been the Valoran attackers' first target. Nadia fumbled with numb fingers at her emergency pack, extracting a small silver thermal blanket. The irony wasn't lost on her, she'd survived the attack only to freeze to death. Or bleed out. Whichever came first. She closed her eyes, recalling the chaos of the attack. The proximity alarms had barely sounded before the first explosion rocked the outpost. The Valoran ships had appeared from nowhere, their stealth technology finally proving as advanced as intelligence had feared. The attack made no strategic sense. Outpost 17 was purely scientific, collecting data on stellar phenomena in the Omega Quadrant. A scraping sound brought her to sudden alertness. Boots on metal. Someone, or something, was moving through the wreckage. Nadia's hand flew to her sidearm, but her fingers were too numb to grip it properly. A shadow moved in the doorway. Tall, lithe, and definitely not human. The figure wore environmental armor adapted for the moon's harsh conditions, but the silhouette was unmistakable. Valoran. Nadia sucked in a breath, wincing at the pain it caused. "If you're here to finish the job," she said through chattering teeth, "make it quick." The figure paused, then approached slowly, steps deliberate. When it knelt beside her, Nadia could see its face through the transparent portion of its helmet, deep amber skin with iridescent markings along high cheekbones, large eyes with vertical pupils that contracted slightly in the dim emergency lighting. The Valoran removed its glove and reached toward her face. Nadia flinched, but the touch was surprisingly gentle as it assessed her temperature. "You're dying," it said, voice modulated through a translator. The tone was flat, emotionless, yet somehow not threatening. "Tell me something I don't know," Nadia replied, attempting bravado despite her situation. The Valoran tilted its head, an oddly human gesture. "My name is Kevin. And I'm going to save your life." Before Nadia could process this statement, Kevin lifted her with surprising strength, cradling her against its chest. Pain ripped through her side, and darkness claimed her. She awoke to warmth. Actual, blessed warmth. Her eyes fluttered open to a soft orange glow. She lay on some kind of thermal mat inside what appeared to be a small emergency shelter, its walls rippling slightly with the wind outside. "You should not move," came a voice from nearby. "The Mediseal is temporary." Nadia turned her head to see the Valoran, Kevin, crouched by a portable heater, adjusting its settings. He'd removed his helmet, revealing a crown of short, ridged spines where hair would be on a human. "Why am I alive?" she croaked. Kevin regarded her with those unsettling vertical pupils. "Why should you be dead? Your people attacked us. Killed everyone else. I assumed killing humans was the objective." Kevin's expression shifted subtly, something close to discomfort. "Not my people. Not our objective." Nadia tried to sit up, gasping as pain shot through her side. Kevin was beside her instantly, gently but firmly pressing her back down. "The wound is deep. You have internal damage that I cannot fix with field equipment." "Then I'm still dying, just more comfortably," Nadia observed. "No," Kevin replied. "Help will come." "Help? From where? My people think I'm dead, and yours want me that way. Kevin busied himself with adjusting her thermal blanket. Not all Valoran are the same, just as not all humans are the same. He produced a small container and opened it, revealing a thick, blue gel. This will help with the pain and slow the bleeding. It may feel unpleasant. Worse than slowly bleeding to death while freezing on an ice moon. Nadia attempted a weak smile. Kevin didn't smile back. Valoran facial expressions were still largely a mystery to humans, but something in his eyes softened. Yes, temporarily worse. But then better. He was right. The gel burned like acid when applied to her wound, eliciting a scream that Nadia couldn't suppress. But within minutes, the pain began to recede, replaced by a curious numbness that spread pleasantly through her torso. "Why did you save me?" she asked when she could form words again. Kevin sat back on his haunches, considering her. "Do you know what we were hunting here?" Nadia frowned. "Hunting?" Outpost 17 was a research station. We were studying stellar radiation patterns. Your scientists were. Your military handlers had another agenda. Kevin reached into a compartment in his armor and withdrew a small, crystalline object that pulsed with a faint blue light. They were testing prototypes of these quantum disruptors. Nadia stared at the device. That's impossible. That technology is theoretical at best. No longer theoretical. Your government has been developing them in secret outposts like this one. When activated, they create cascading quantum failures in Valoran technology. Our ships, our cities, our life support systems. Nadia shook her head, immediately regretting the movement as dizziness swept over her. I would have known. I handled all communications. Only the ones they wanted you to handle, Kevin replied, no accusation in his tone, just certainty. The attack today was not sanctioned by the Valoran High Command. It was a rogue operation by a faction that discovered what was happening here. So why save me if you believe I'm part of some conspiracy to destroy your people? Kevin replaced the crystal in his armor. Because your transmission logs show you were not involved. And because not all battles are won with weapons. He tilted his head again. Rest now. The gel will keep you stable for 8 of your hours. Nadia wanted to ask more questions, but exhaustion pulled at her. As her eyes grew heavy, she watched Kevin return to the heater, adjusting controls with long, nimble fingers. She drifted in and out of consciousness over the next few hours, catching fragments of Kevin's activities, checking equipment, scanning the perimeter, occasionally examining her wound with surprising gentleness. During one moment of clarity, she noticed him speaking quietly into a communication device. The language was his own, melodic and full of clicking consonants that human vocal cords couldn't replicate. "Who are you calling?" she asked, her voice cracking. Kevin looked over, perhaps surprised to find her awake. "Those who can help." "More Valoran?" "Yes. And they'll just agree to save a human? After what you believe we've done?" Kevin approached, checking the seal on her wound. "They will help because I ask it. I have standing among my people." Nadia studied his face, the intricate patterns that shifted slightly with his expressions. "You're not just a soldier, are you? No more than you are just a communications specialist." His eyes met hers, challenge in their depths. Nadia wanted to deny it, to claim she was exactly what her title suggested, but the truth was more complicated. She had been placed at Outpost 17 to monitor certain communications, to report unusual patterns back to a handler whose name she'd never learned. Not quite intelligence work, not quite military, a gray area she justified because she believed in the Earth Alliance's cause. "How long have our people been at war, Nadia Reeves?" Kevin asked suddenly. "Officially? 8 years. Unofficially, tensions have existed since first contact." "And what do you know of us?" "Of Valoran?" Nadia hesitated. "You're technologically advanced. Territorial. Suspicious of human expansion. Unwilling to share resources or knowledge. She paused, then added, physiologically similar to humans despite evolving on different worlds, which some take as evidence that we share ancient ancestors. Kevin nodded slowly. And what have you observed of me, in these hours since I found you? The question caught her off guard. You're not what I expected. Because I didn't kill you. Because you've shown compassion. Intelligence. Individuality. She swallowed hard. They tell us you're all the same. A hive mind. Without emotion. A sound escaped Kevin that might have been a laugh. And our propaganda says humans are violent primitives, incapable of seeing beyond immediate gain. He gestured between them. Yet here we are. Outside, the wind had stopped howling. An eerie silence descended on their shelter. They're here, Kevin said, rising to his feet. Who? Those who can save you. And perhaps, through you, many others. He gathered his equipment efficiently. When you return to your people, remember this: not all wars are what they seem, and not all enemies are those you've been told to fear. They'll debrief me. I'll have to tell them about you. Kevin paused at the shelter entrance. Tell them everything. Especially about the quantum disruptors. The truth may be our only path to peace. With that, he was gone. Moments later, new figures entered, more Valoran, their expressions unreadable as they assessed her. One administered an injection that sent warmth coursing through her veins. Another prepared some kind of transport stretcher. As they lifted her, Nadia caught a glimpse outside. The blizzard had stopped completely, revealing a sky filled with stars and the looming presence of the gas giant Taraxis orbited. Among those stars, humans and Valoran fought and died, believing the worst about each other. All because of secrets. Secrets like the one supposedly hidden beneath Outpost 17. As consciousness began to fade again, Nadia made a promise to herself. She would survive this. She would find the truth. And she would find Kevin again. Across enemy lines. The crash landing had been spectacular, the kind pilots told stories about over drinks, if they survived. Lieutenant Bren Soltari was still deciding if he fell into that fortunate category as he dragged himself from the smoking wreckage of his fighter. His right leg screamed in protest with each movement, the bone likely fractured where the control panel had collapsed against it during impact. Mira 7's twin suns beat down mercilessly on the rust-colored landscape. In the distance, jagged rock formations punctured the sky like broken teeth. No vegetation, no water in sight, just endless expanses of crimson sand and dust. His emergency beacon was transmitting, but Bren held no illusions. This planet was in disputed territory, and the Valoran fleet had been pushing the human forces back for weeks. He limped 20 meters from the crash site before collapsing, his breath coming in ragged gasps as sweat poured down his face. The survival kit from his fighter contained only 2 days' worth of water. With his injuries, that wouldn't be enough. Bren activated his field scanner, grimacing as he assessed the damage to his leg. Compound fracture, significant blood loss, and the beginning stages of infection. Without medical attention, sepsis would claim him before dehydration. Always thought I'd die in space, he muttered to himself, not baking on some forgotten rock. The sound of an approaching engine made him freeze. He fumbled for his sidearm, squinting against the harsh sunlight as a vehicle crested a nearby dune. Not military, too small, no weapons visible. A civilian transport, built for the harsh desert environments, its solar panels glinting in the sunlight. The vehicle stopped 30 meters away. Bren raised his weapon, despite knowing it would be useless if the driver was hostile and well armed. The door opened, and a figure emerged cautiously, hands visible at their sides. Human. Female. Wearing civilian clothing adapted for the desert, with a worn medical insignia patch on her sleeve. I'm not armed, she called out. I picked up your distress signal. Bren didn't lower his weapon. Identify yourself. Lyra Voss. Medic with the Independent Frontier Coalition. She took another step forward. You're a Valoran pilot. Human, Bren corrected automatically, though his distinctive Valoran-made flight suit made her mistake understandable. Few humans wore such technology. Lieutenant Bren Soltari. Special Reconnaissance Division. Surprise flickered across her face. You're flying a Valoran fighter. Stolen tech. Modified. He grimaced as a fresh wave of pain shot through his leg. Look, if you're going to shoot me or leave me, just get it over with. I don't have the energy for an interrogation. Instead of responding, Lyra approached slowly, her eyes on his injured leg. That needs treatment immediately. She knelt beside him, ignoring the weapon still pointed in her general direction. From her pack, she produced a medical scanner. Why would you help me? Bren asked, suspicious despite his desperate situation. Because you're injured, and I'm a medic. She glanced up, brown eyes meeting his. The IFC doesn't take sides in this war. We treat whoever needs treatment. Noble sentiment, but dangerously naive. Perhaps. She ran the scanner over his leg, frowning at the results. This is beyond field treatment. I need to get you to my outpost. Bren finally lowered his weapon, too exhausted to maintain his guard. Your outpost. Small medical station about 40 kilometers east. We maintain it for travelers crossing the Mira Desert. Travelers? This is an active war zone. Lyra began preparing a stabilizing field for his leg. People still have to live their lives, Lieutenant. Trade routes don't disappear just because governments decide to shoot at each other. The field activated with a low hum, immediately dulling the worst of the pain. Bren exhaled slowly, relief momentarily overriding his suspicion. Anyone else stationed there? Just my colleague, Joru. He's Nishali. She gestured to her transport. Think you can make it those few meters if I help you? He nodded, and with her supporting his weight, they made slow progress to the vehicle. Once inside, the blessed cool of environmental controls washed over him. Bren settled into the passenger seat, watching as Lyra expertly navigated the dunes. Why are you really helping me? He asked after several minutes of silence. The coalition might be neutral, but everyone has personal opinions about this war. Lyra kept her eyes on the terrain ahead. 3 months ago, a Valoran medical ship answered our distress call when we had an outbreak of Castrian fever. Their doctor stayed for 2 weeks, treating patients round the clock until the outbreak was contained. She glanced briefly at him. 26 people survived who would have died otherwise. One good Valoran doesn't make us all saints. And one aggressive military campaign doesn't make you all monsters. She adjusted the vehicle's course slightly. Besides, I recognize Special Forces equipment when I see it. You're not just any pilot. Bren stiffened. What makes you say that? That fighter you crashed. It's a hybrid. Valoran stealth tech with human navigational systems. The only units that use those are the deep infiltration teams. She gave him a knowing look. You were behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence. He remained silent, neither confirming nor denying her assessment. Relax, Lieutenant. I'm not interested in military secrets. I just want to understand why a human would be flying missions for the Valoran. I'm not flying for them, Bren snapped. I'm flying against them. In their own technology. That's unusual. Bren stared out at the passing landscape. The suns were beginning to set, casting long shadows across the dunes. Finally, he spoke. I was part of a joint research initiative before the war. Human and Valoran scientists working together on stealth technology. When hostilities broke out, I was reassigned to intelligence, tasked with extracting Valoran tech secrets. He flexed his hand, still feeling phantom pain from an old injury. My Valoran colleagues, people I'd worked alongside for years, were detained or disappeared. And that didn't bother you? Of course it bothered me. Bren's voice was tight. But I believed what they told us, that the Valorant had been planning an attack all along, that our collaborative projects were just a cover for them to study our weaknesses. Lyra navigated around a particularly large rock formation. And now? Now I'm not sure what to believe, he admitted. The intelligence I've gathered over the past 3 years doesn't match the narrative we've been given. The Valorant defenses are primarily that, defensive. Their strategic positioning doesn't suggest an invading force. Yet the war continues. Because both sides believe the other fired first. Bren shifted uncomfortably, his leg throbbing despite the stabilizing field. My last mission was to confirm intelligence about a potential Valorant superweapon. Something that could theoretically end the war in one strike. Did you find it? I found something, but it wasn't a weapon. Bren closed his eyes briefly. It was a shield generator. Coverage for an entire planet. They're not looking to destroy us, they're preparing for what they believe is an inevitable human attack. The medical outpost appeared on the horizon as darkness fell, a modest structure built into the side of a cliff face, lights glowing warmly against the gathering night. Lyra brought the vehicle to a stop near the entrance. The Valorant ships that shot you down, she said quietly. They were protecting this shield generator. Yes. And now my people believe I'm dead or captured, and they still think the Valorant are building a doomsday device. Bren looked at her intently. Do you have communications equipment at your outpost? Something that could reach human military channels? We have an emergency quantum relay for medical evacuations. Lyra helped him from the vehicle. But using it to transmit military intelligence would compromise our neutrality. I'm not asking you to take sides. I'm asking you to help prevent an escalation that could kill millions. Bren grimaced as they moved toward the entrance. Both sides are acting on bad information and fear. If I can get my report through. The door slid open, revealing a small but well-equipped medical facility. A tall, four-armed Nishali looked up from a workstation, concern immediately creasing his features as he took in Bren's condition. Joru, this is Lieutenant Soltari. He needs immediate treatment, Lyra explained. Compound fracture and developing sepsis. The Nishali nodded, quickly preparing a treatment bed. The Valorant patrol reported shooting down a scout ship. I assume that was you. Bren tensed. You communicate with Valorant patrols? We communicate with everyone who controls territory around us, Joru replied calmly, helping Lyra transfer Bren to the bed. It's how we maintain our neutrality and safety. As Joru began treatment, Lyra brought a portable scanner to the bedside. This will hurt, she warned, removing the stabilizing field. The pain returned with shocking intensity as she cut away his flight suit to expose the wound. Through gritted teeth, Bren asked, do the Valorant know I'm human? No, Joru replied, administering an analgesic that immediately began dulling the pain. They reported destroying a scout ship. They didn't mention survivors. Good. That gives us time. Bren caught Lyra's wrist as she prepared to clean his wound. Help me get a message to my command. Please. I have proof that could stop an offensive that's being planned right now. Lyra hesitated, exchanging a glance with Joru. If you're going to uphold your oath as a medic, Bren continued, then help me prevent more casualties before they happen. After a long moment, Lyra nodded slowly. I'll help you compose the message after we've treated your leg. But I won't compromise this outpost's security. Fair enough. Hours later, with his leg set and healing under advanced regeneration fields, Bren sat at the communications console. Lyra had given him access to a secured channel, one used by humanitarian organizations that would eventually reach human military command. This won't be direct, she warned. It could take hours or even days to reach your superiors. Better than never, Bren replied, uploading the data packet he'd extracted from his flight suit's backup systems. This contains scanned data of the shield generator and intercepted communications proving defensive intent. Lyra watched him work, her expression thoughtful. What happens when you go back? Will they listen? I don't know. Military intelligence isn't known for admitting mistakes. He completed the transmission setup. But I have to try. And if they don't listen? If they proceed with their offensive anyway? Bren looked up at her, sudden determination hardening his features. Then I find another way. Perhaps through neutral channels like yours. That would be treason, Lieutenant. No, he said firmly. It would be conscience. Something I've ignored for too long. He pressed the final command, sending the message into the vast interstellar network. We've all been manipulated, humans and Valoran alike, into fearing an enemy that may not exist. Lyra sat down across from him. Sounds like you and I should have a lot to talk about while you're healing. I'd like that, Bren said, surprising himself with his sincerity. I think there's a lot I need to relearn about this conflict. Outside, the desert night enveloped the small outpost in darkness. Somewhere above, fleets of ships prowled the system, weapons primed and targeting systems active. But for now, in this small haven of neutrality, a soldier and a medic had found common ground, and perhaps the beginnings of a truth that could change everything. Bren looked at the confirmation of his transmitted message and allowed himself to hope for the first time in years. One voice might not end a war, but it could start a conversation. And sometimes, that was enough.